The United States makes the UN work when it wants it to work. And that is exactly the way it should be, because the only question to the United States is what's in our national interest.
My name is John, and the International Criminal Court is now in session. It is October 13th, 2023, Friday the 13th, so that's a pretty bad day. I'm sure all of you have heard the news by now. The Palestinian offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood, an Islamic fundamentalist group that is basically banned in most parts of the world, known as Hamas, have invaded the state of Israel from the Gaza Strip. Hamas, which has been basically locked away in this open-air prison known as the Gaza Strip, had invaded Israel on October 7, 2023. They took territory, a good amount of territory in these areas here. They even apparently got pretty close to the large Israeli city of Beersheba, which was originally going to be included in a Arab-Palestinian state in the 1947 partition plan by the United Nations. That was agreed upon by Israel, by the way. But now it's, of course, Israeli territory. There was a big battle, by the way, that took place in Sderot. And apparently Hamas actually took control of it for a bit. And I think they were wreaking havoc over it. And then they retreated. They took hostages and, maybe kidnapped women and children. I don't know. But they took them all. They're now holed up in the Gaza Strip. And now there is obvious intention by the Israeli government to launch a full-scale invasion of the Gaza Strip proper. They have called upon everybody who is in the Gaza city itself to get the hell out right now, to at least go to the more southern areas of the Gaza Strip, because they're going to invade Gaza City itself and clear basically everything like Hamas. They want to wipe out the Hamas group once and for all, and I guess maybe occupy Gaza again, sort of like they did since 1967 to 2005 or 6. So, with that being said, I should mention that there have been a lot of casualties. Surprising, a lot on the Israeli side. I think as of right now, nearly 1,400 Israeli people have already been killed by the Hamas. Most of them, I heard, or a good chunk of them were killed in this music festival or rave, I think. And Hamas were coming down from hang gliders or something. They really planned this thing. They really did for years prior. I mean, they were really thinking hard about how they were going to conduct this operation. And in the end, I would say it was kind of successful, because what they're doing, you got to really think in the grand scheme of things, all right? They didn't go into Israel just to occupy territory and maybe claim it as their own. I mean, they already recognize the entire Israel territory as Palestine, the so-called Palestine. I mean, they literally do. They literally view it as their land, and they want it back. However, they knew in order to maybe do this, what they're doing here is they would basically infiltrate the land of Israel, take hostages, and maybe piss off the Israeli government so much, which is, by the way, a right-wing government led by a familiar face, Benjamin Netanyahu, and they would get him to deploy over 300,000 troops, which is what they did. So Israel announced a mobilization of over 300,000 men, and they're going to be, I guess, all deployed to fight against the Hamas group in the Gaza Strip, which is the Palestinian enclave. Right now, there isn't really officially a Palestinian state as of right now. I mean, there is a Palestinian Authority, but it doesn't really feel like it's really independent. It feels like it's being completely overshadowed and puppeted by the Israeli government in Jerusalem. And I say Jerusalem because that's literally where the Knesset is. And I think that's where Netanyahu lives as well. It's not really Tel Aviv anymore. They really went full on, completely say, yes, Jerusalem is our capital, and we want all of you to see it that way. And the United States, under President Donald Trump, did that. So as of right now, the United States recognizes Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, and the Biden administration did not reverse course, even though they disagreed with Trump on many foreign policy issues, especially when it came to Russia. So, but yeah, getting back to the conflict within the Gaza Strip. It's been going on since 2006, mainly thanks to the Hamas group taking over the Gaza and them wiping out the Fatah, PLO, which was Yasser Arafat's organization, from the Gaza Strip. So this is literally Hamas's territory now, like full, like 100% their territory. And they basically created an Islamic state out of it with Sharia law. Like women cannot go out with their husbands or something, and then they need to have them like occupying them at all times. You already know the drill with Sharia law. It's pretty strict. Very ultra conservative, values and rules from Islam. But yeah, that's basically what the Gaza is. It's basically like a tiny Islamic state within this whole territory in the Levant. So let's talk about the implications, okay? So as all of you know, there are a lot of implications to this, as I just said a moment ago. The Syrians, the Lebanese, and even the Jordanians had talked about all supporting the Palestinians during this period, because they all don't agree with how Israel is currently flattening the Gaza with airstrikes and bombs, like all sorts of indiscriminatory weapons. And by the way, the United States has greenlighted Israel's ground invasion of Gaza, so yeah, they're going to be free to do whatever the hell they want to the Gaza, which is unfortunate for the Palestinians living there. And this area, by the way, marked in light blue, is basically everything I guess Israel is going to aim to take from the Hamas, if I'm correct. And yeah, Jordan, Syria, and Lebanon have all voiced their opposition. Even further down south in the Arabian Peninsula, Yemen and Saudi Arabia especially have also expressed opposition, including Qatar. The United Arab Emirates seems more neutral, if not leaning Israel in this regard, even Egypt. Because, I don't know, maybe security issues lately. Because for Egypt, it's understandable because that would mean a full-scale wars on their border, and it could mean a spillover of refugees and maybe some Hamas militants coming over to Egypt to maybe wreak havoc there. Because as all of you know by now, the border, from Egypt to the Gaza Strip, is closed thanks to the ruling military junta of Abdel el-Sisi, who is very anti-Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas. So, yeah, he closed off the border in 2013 or 14 or so, and since then, it's been next to impossible to get into the Gaza Strip, unless, you have some permission or so from the government to get in. I mean, the only time when the Gaza seemed like it was open was during the Morsi administration, which only lasted for 1 to 2 years. But then he got overthrown by Sisi in a coup. And yeah, so the Gaza is sealed off from land to sea, from Egypt to Israel and from the Mediterranean. Completely sealed off. And the United States is also deploying the USS Gerald Ford to the Mediterranean too, to maybe provide cover for the Israelis in the event of a ground invasion. So that's another thing to keep an eye on. Now, if I have to be honest about the overall geopolitical consequences of an Israeli flattening of the Gaza Strip, I think Hamas will fail in defending the Gaza Strip. I mean, they'll definitely show tough resistance. I'm not going to dispute that. They absolutely will. They will fight to the very end. Because any hopes of a Palestinian state, to them, is now dead. So they might as well just fight until there's none of them left. I feel like that's literally the mindset they all have right now. And they're willing to die, knowing that they felt it was a noble cause to them. So Saudi Arabia, Iran, obviously, because Iran is the supposed biggest ally of Hamas, have all expressed opposition to the planned Israeli invasion of the Gaza Strip. And as all of you know by now, Israel has also been trying to establish diplomatic ties with Saudi Arabia, but now that appears to be dead. The Saudis literally just announced today or yesterday that they're ceasing any normalization talks until they get this thing within the Palestinian territories resolved. So it's dead. It is. And Qatar is now even threatening to cut off gas to the whole world if there is no Palestinian state created, or if Israel were to go full steam ahead with this attack in the Gaza. So if there's anything that Hamas was able to accomplish, I felt like it was them uniting the whole Muslim world once again. And countries within the Arab world that have not yet normalized with Israel, like Algeria, for instance, and maybe Libya, that has now convinced them to no longer even consider normalizations. So, from the geopolitical point of view, I do feel like Hamas has already won. That's literally how I feel. They've already won in that regard, but on the ground, they will absolutely lose. They're going to get crushed. There's no debate about it. I have also heard speculation about Hezbollah getting involved, and I think they're already involved now because they're apparently striking northern Israel near the Golan Heights. But I'm not really expecting Hezbollah to get too involved when it comes to like ground forces. They're just going to maybe send over some rockets or something into Israel, but that's about it. I think they've been advised to not go in, or maybe, I don't know, maybe the Syrian government has told them not to get involved. And speaking of Syria, Assad was actually advised by the United Arab Emirates, or the Emirates as I can call them, to not go into Israel too, to reclaim the Golan Heights. I know they really want it back, and that is their territory technically, from an international point of view, but Syria is in a very weakened position right now, economically, militarily. They're very exhausted from that civil war that is still ongoing, and they haven't even cleared the areas where the SDF and the al-Nusra Front control, so Syria cannot really do too much to help the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. And as I mentioned, the Muslim Brotherhood is banned in most of the Middle East, and yeah, I just cannot really see any real ground support being provided to help the Palestinian militias. Palestinians are mainly on their own here. It's basically a David versus Goliath situation within Gaza. And for that reason or so, I think the Israelis are absolutely going to win in Gaza, but I do think at a heavy price. They're definitely going to take in a lot of casualties. I wouldn't be surprised if it even hit the 10,000 or so mark. And I'm expecting maybe a lot of refugees maybe into Egypt, to the, I guess, to the dismay of El-Sisi. And maybe we might expect refugees to go into other Arab states, or at least try to go into other Arab states like Jordan, or to, I don't know, Saudi Arabia, or into Syria or Lebanon. I will expect a huge refugee crisis because of this war that's about to get even worse. Now, I also want to mention, this is the last thing I'll talk about before I go. How does this all impact the Russian invasion of Ukraine? How does this impact the amount of aid that the Ukrainians get from the U.S. government and their allies in NATO? Now, personally, I think this is bad news for the Zelensky government because Israel, as all of you know, is America's greatest ally. Well, that's at least what our politicians at APEC say. So Israel's probably going to come first before Ukraine. And not to mention, Ukrainians have not been able to successfully win in their counteroffensive against Russia as of late. And not to mention that Israel also has a better win-loss ratio in wars. Israel has lost only like 1 or 2 wars, but Ukraine has lost all their wars. Literally won almost none of them. And I'm of course excluding the wars that they participated in when they were part of the USSR or the Russian Empire. I'm not going to include that. I'm talking about Ukraine as an independent state. They never won a war, ever. They never did. So the United States, to me, will split aid off between Ukraine and Israel. And because of the Ukrainians' recent struggles lately, especially in Avdiivka, which, by the way, I'll discuss in the next video, I don't think they're going to prioritize Ukraine as much in this scenario. I think they're definitely going to prioritize Israel more because Israel, as I just said a moment ago, is a proven winner. With a competent military, with a competent government, well, sorta. I mean, it's more competent than Ukraine's. I mean, there's a lot of reasons for the United States government to just go with Israel completely full-time rather than trying to invest in Ukraine. So I am expecting funds to Ukraine to get a little limited because of the war between Israel and Hamas. And in fact, Ukrainians are panicking so hard about this that they actually went on the internet to claim that Russia helped Hamas plan this whole operation so that the world would forget about Ukraine or something like that. But of course, Ukraine provides no evidence to back that claim, and at most, it's speculation. So, yeah, that's going to do it for today's video. I'll keep you updated on what's going on. And yeah, I'll see you all later, guys. Take care, stay safe, and peace out. Have a good one. Bye.